Every year, the top 3 NBA draft picks create a lot of optimism because they feature some of the brightest talent entering the league, and it takes a bit of time to see if that talent fulfills its true potential. Now is the perfect time to look back at the 2000s and see how the top 3 draft picks from each year worked out. Let's dig in, starting with the 2001 NBA Draft. Number 1 overall pick, Kwame Brown. Number 2 overall pick, Tyson Chandler. Number 3 overall pick, Pau Gasol. It doesn't take a genius to see that the first pick of the 2001 draft by the Washington Wizards, Kwame Brown, was a massive disaster. There was a lot of hype around him, but he wasn't good enough to be the number 1 pick once he arrived in the NBA, and remains one of the biggest flops in NBA history. The number 2 pick was Tyson Chandler, and he was a smart one. After playing his first 5 seasons with the Bulls, Chandler played for the Hornets, the Knicks, and the Mavericks, winning the Defensive Player of the Year award in 2012. And the number 3 pick from 2001 was Pau Gasol, who needs no introduction. He's probably the best of the lot, winning 2 titles, becoming a 6-time All-Star, and a Hall of Famer. Should have been the first pick. Moving on to the 2002 NBA Draft, number 1 overall pick, Yao Ming. Number 2 overall pick, Jay Williams. Number 3 overall pick, Mike Dunleavy Jr. One of the most undisputed number 1 picks, Yao Ming immediately became a superstar, just as everyone had predicted him to become. It's hard to see many 7'6" centers failing, and Ming certainly wasn't going to be one of them. Similar to Ming, there was so much optimism surrounding Jay Williams, but he only played 1 season in the NBA because of injuries that completely destroyed his career. He remains one of the biggest what-if stories in the NBA. And the number 3 pick of the 2002 NBA Draft was Mike Dunleavy Jr., a solid player, a decent shooter, and great coming off screens to drain threes from range too. But he certainly shouldn't have gone over the likes of Amare Stoudemire or Caron Butler, etc. After that, the 2003 NBA Draft. Number 1 overall pick, LeBron James. Number 2 overall pick, Darko Milicic. Number 3 overall pick, Carmelo Anthony. No one in the sports history has gathered as much hype as LeBron James did when he entered the NBA Draft and was picked straight from high school as the number 1 pick by the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's starting his 20th season in the NBA and is arguably the greatest player to play the sport. Just like Buzz Aldrin walking on the moon, Darko Milicic gets ignored despite being the number 2 pick, but he deserves it because he remains one of the biggest flops in NBA draft history. It's a shame that Dwayne Wade didn't go as number 2, and Carmelo Anthony at number 3 was a smart pick. Still looking for a franchise in his 20th season, Melo is probably one of the most impressive and talented scorers to ever play the game. Up next, the 2004 NBA Draft. Number 1 overall pick, Dwight Howard. Number 2 overall pick, Emeka Okafor. Number 3 overall pick, Ben Gordon. Many people seem to have forgotten just how good Dwight Howard was during his prime. The winner of 3 Defensive Player of the Year honors, Howard was instrumental in carrying the Magic to the 2009 Finals. Given the rest of the picks that year, he more than deserves his number 1 overall pick. Emeka Okafor became the 2005 Rookie of the Year, but his career really didn't explode after that brilliant start. Don't get us wrong, he was still a fantastic center who can be proud of his career, but injuries and inconsistencies derailed what could have been a sensational career. Ben Gordon was another mixed bag because there were many expectations, and he certainly came up short despite a couple of really good seasons. His failure to build on his skill set means he's not remembered too fondly. Then the 2005 NBA Draft. Number 1 overall pick, Andrew Bogut. Number 2 overall pick, Marvin Williams. Number 3 overall pick, Deron Williams. An excellent blocker and rebounder, Bogut's career never really took off due to injuries, but there's absolutely no reason why he should have been number 1 ahead of Chris Paul based on individual ability. Similarly, the number 2 pick, Marvin Williams, was a terrible decision by the Atlanta Hawks, and they should have gone with either Andrew Bynum or even Deron Williams if we're being honest. Deron Williams lacked longevity in his career, but at his peak, he was certainly as good as Chris Paul. Still a decent pick for the Utah Jazz, Williams' dominance and playmaking ability along with his scoring helped him get to 3 All-Star teams and 2 All-NBA teams. Also, the 2006 NBA Draft. Number 1 overall pick, Andrea Bargnani. Number 2 overall pick, LaMarcus Aldridge. Number 3 overall pick, Adam Morrison. Given his unique size of being a big man back in the day, we can see why Andrea Bargnani became the number 1 overall pick. But despite averaging 14.3 PPG and 4.6 RPG over his career, the Italian didn't deserve to be picked as number 1. He couldn't defend well enough, nor could he rebound that well, and Kyle Lowry was right there. Aldridge's longevity and the fact that he was dominant on both ends of the court during his prime helped him to 7 All-Star appearances and 5 All-NBA teams. He definitely deserves to be number 2, but behind Lowry, not Bargnani. Adam Morrison as the 3rd pick, disaster. Definitely a flop, considering Rajon Rondo was also in the draft. On to the 2007 NBA Draft. Number 1 overall pick, Greg Oden. Number 2 overall pick, Kevin Durant. Number 3 overall pick, Al Horford. At the time, Greg Oden deserved to be the number 1 overall pick, and if not for injuries, who knows what he truly could have achieved in the NBA. He's probably a bigger what-if story than Jay Williams, if we're being honest. Kevin Durant is considered a top 15 all-time player, and given his rare skill set, many believed he should have gone ahead of Greg Oden at that time too. That's saying something, because Oden's hype was unreal. Given how his career has gone though, we definitely agree. Despite the 2000 draft featuring the likes of Marc Gasol and Mike Conley, we think Al Horford wasn't too bad a pick at number 3. There's only so much you can predict. A respected figure and a top pro, Horford's made 5 All-Star apps, which are definitely good enough. Moving on to the 2008 NBA Draft. Number 1 overall pick, Derrick Rose. Number 2 overall pick, Michael Beasley. Number 3 overall pick, OJ Mayo. Another what-if story, Derrick Rose's career was destroyed by injuries, but he won an MVP before it all went south. He's still playing and has molded himself into a useful bench player, so we don't disagree with this one. Beasley ahead of Russell Westbrook never made sense, but he did showcase his offensive skills throughout his career. A unique pick, but some personality issues limited his ceiling. For OJ Mayo, off-court decisions killed his career. Despite averaging 18.5 PPG as a rookie, Mayo never really realized his true potential and shouldn't have been picked ahead of Kevin Love. Now let's look at the 2009 NBA Draft. Number 1 overall pick, Blake Griffin. Number 2 overall pick, Hasheem Thabeet. Number 3 overall pick, James Harden. This is probably the most debated draft of all time. How was Steph Curry not the number 1 overall pick? Don't get us wrong, Griffin enjoyed a fabulous career, but Curry's from a different league altogether. Hasheem Thabeet. We can understand why he went as the number 2 overall pick because he stands at 7'3", but he certainly wasn't ready for the NBA. But the way his career panned out, there's no way he should have been picked ahead of Harden. Despite not winning a ring, Harden's quality has never been in doubt. He's already a Hall of Famer and should have been the 2nd overall pick ahead of Blake Griffin, but behind Steph Curry. Still, a sensational player and an MVP winner who is chasing that elusive ring in 2022-23 with the Sixers. Lastly, the 2010 NBA Draft. Number 1 overall pick, John Wall. Number 2 overall pick, Evan Turner. Number 3 overall pick, Derrick Favors. Few people had more superstar potential than John Wall, and he was always going to be the number 1 pick. Unfortunately, given the insane amount of injuries, people look back and believe that Paul George should have been the number 1 pick. But now they're playing together for the Clippers, and if they win a ring, all this argument would be worthless. If Turner had been taken as a lower pick, he would have been rated very highly, but given the hype surrounding the number 2 pick, Evan never justified being that high a pick. DeMarcus Cousins was a much bigger man than Favors, despite Favors going as the number 3 overall pick. Nonetheless, he enjoyed a decent career playing for the Jazz for a decade before bouncing from team to team in the last few years. And that's a wrap for this video. Do you agree that the Cavs have made the best pick of the 21st century in the NBA? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.